Do a lot of hits that were bad. That could have backfired, where there would be a lot of heat. But if he did it, there'd be no heat. So they were.
Yeah.
It's a big using, backstabbing life. So
Sure.
I learned the hard way.
Yeah, and in that case, I mean, there's some rules that were broken, right?
Mm.
Like, even though you consider it in normal people private, like
Yeah.
who's screwing whose wife,
Yeah.
that was supposed to be a rule
Well,
too,
that's
right?
one rule.
Yeah.
Then, as we went along, Greg Jr., who I'm still friends with, and he's nothing like his father, did 33 years like a champ. Even helped with some terrorist stuff, and they
Yeah.
never gave him play because of his
Mississippi
father.
burning.
No, that was way back. That
Yeah.
was way back. The World Trade Center bombing,
Oh.
the Oklahoma bombing. He, had some information, and because they hated the father now so much, they locked him up. They didn't give him any play. But anyway, he's totally different. I'm tight with him,
Yeah.
and he just got out. But he, I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
No, you were talking about. I wanted you were discussing like helping the government, and I just mentioned the Mississippi burning
Yeah,
because I know
yeah.
Greg
Well,
Scarpa.
yeah. He was in. Yeah, no, that's where he got his badge from them.
Yeah,
The Mississippi burning story is exactly when he got in with Hoover.
and people
And-
know that movie.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's something that
Yeah.
you might want to tell people because most of these viewers probably aren't familiar.
Yeah,
with
if the movie's Mississippi Burning, Gene Hackman's in it among others, William Dafoe, and it's based on a true story about civil rights activists, along with some black guys that disappeared down in Mississippi, in the '60s, and it was just when the movement was happening for equality and all of that good stuff, and they couldn't find the bodies. The FBI, nobody would give it up. Ultimately, they hired Greg Scarpa, put him down there, and I was told he did unspeakable things to them. So, the first level, he got through them, then eventually they led him to the guy that knew. And the story, again, it's all in Mississippi Burning, but they don't let you know that they hired a hitman, and they sort of make you wonder if it was the FBI. They
Yeah.
don't let you know who it was.
Yeah.
But it was great. It's documented. You can read it in the Times. You can research it. It's all out there now.
So kind of to finish up with Greg Scarpa, he had a contracted a horrible disease. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, he did. What happened, he was taking aspirins, Anacin, 3 to 6 a day, without milk, without water. He would just pop them. And he did that because he didn't want to get a headache that night.
Yeah.
Especially if we were going to go have a few drinks or he had a rough day. And he had me popping them with him. Not all 6, I would take 2 or 3. And for years and years of doing this, they were digging holes in his stomach. They all hit at once. So he had these lesions bleeding in his stomach. So he started seeing it in his system. He goes to the hospital, and it just started gushing. I mean, it got really bad. He had to have a few emergency operations. So to cut to the chase, he needs a blood transfusion. He insists on it being one of his men. Somebody has to match, he feels. The hospital wanted to give him their blood because it's been scanned already, or whatever the word is.
Tested.
Tested, yeah. So they know there will be no virus in there. But he insisted on one of his own men. So about 30 of us go. As luck has it, or as the plan from above had it, there was one match, Paulie. Paulie was a weightlifter. She had steroids or the
Needles.
Okay,
Yeah.
back in the day. Everybody thought it was a gay disease, but you could transfer it that way too.
Yeah.
And this Paulie had more girls than Brad Pitt. And the
Yeah.
guy was in good shape, had lots of money, So it wasn't that. So long story short, he's the one that matches, and he's got HIV. So ultimately, yeah, Greg got that. He deteriorated, but because of the money he had, he was doing a lot of experimental drugs like Magic Johnson.
Yeah.
So he was able to stay alive.
Stay longer.
Yeah. But without the stomach and the way he had to eat, they had to take out his whole stomach.
Oh,
So they had to put a bag in there. So other things happened, and then dementia hit in. At the end, he was really that's when we changed him from the Grim Reaper to Hannibal. We called him Hannibal.
Like Hannibal, from Hannibal
Yeah.
to, it's funny because you talk about that, and I
Yeah.
don't want to. There's so many great stories in the book, and you were involved in really the last big mob war the 20th century. And there's one story that kind of relates to Greg's mind going to the dementia, and that's the story of the hit on Nicky Black, who was very big.
Yeah, but you know what's funny about that one? Out of all the damage we did during the war, it was kill or be killed. We were fighting each other. Again, that doesn't make it right in the whole world, but in our circle, that was what it was. But Nicky Black was a heavyweight under Vicarina. He grew under. He would have never grown under Junior Persico because there was a edict put in when he got made. He could never rise above soldier. He only got straightened out because he was making a fortune with the Teamsters. And I have an Uncle Albert that's a dinosaur with that family, and had more respect, well loved than. Well, they hated Nicky Black. So he goes to my Uncle Albert. Now this is my cousin Joey's here with me now.
Yeah.
Okay. He tells him, and this is my mother's brother, that I'm going to kill Butchie. That was my nickname. If he doesn't come over to, or your nephew, if he doesn't come over to our side.
Yeah.
So my uncle told him, he'll never come over. He's true blue. In other words, you're not. He jumped ship.
Yeah.
My nephew will never do that. So I went to see my uncle, and he told me it's true. He said he's going to do that, so be careful. He says, but remember this, blood is thicker than water. In other words, I had nothing to worry, and I didn't. I wasn't even thinking that way. But if he told me something, listen, like maybe he knew Nicky was coming. But the next day, we made Nicky our #1 target, and once again, I don't know if there was divine intervention, even in such a terrible thing. This guy was looking for me. We made him a target, and the next day we found him, and we were in a car that looked like an unmarked car. We had a siren in the window.
So he thought you were a
and
cop.
that's what we think, because he never turned his head. We pulled up alongside of him. You know, Greg had a rifle.
Yeah.
And he actually hit the wrong button, and all the bullets fell out. This was towards the end.
Towards the end with
he
the
was
dementia.
getting slow.
Yeah.
And I had the shotgun. So I reached out the window. I had a bandana on like we have to wear now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, I had sunglasses on and a baseball hat. I reached out. I really got within 6 inches from his head. I do not know how come he never turned around, other than thinking, it's the law. They're going to arrest us.
Keeping his head straight like it's
exactly.
a cop. Yeah.
And, you know, the rest, I hit him, and it was pretty gory, but we drove off. And that was one that, even to this day, I don't regret.
Yeah.
You threatened to kill me. My mother had to hear that. My uncle had to hear that. My blood heard it, you know, and they were worried. Because this man was a dangerous man, too. So, But that was like the pretty much the turning point in the war for us, too.
Sure.
Yeah.
And there was one other quick story about Greg's daughter, Linda, that you were told where her daughter was young. She was a minor, right? 13, 14
years old, yep.
And tell that whole story real quick, too.
Well, this one was earlier on. I was much younger. And this car service driver would come and pick her up every day. And this one day, I believe the brother didn't go to school that day. He was sick, so she was alone in the car. And instead of taking her to school, he takes her off to a park. And he tried to get her to succumb.
Yeah.
But she didn't. She didn't. But it was what the guy did was wrong. I didn't need Greg. If it was my sister or my daughter, I would have went and did the same thing we did. We gave him a beating.
Yeah.
We taught him a lesson. I mean, bones were broken. He spent 6 weeks in the hospital. But in that 6 weeks, I remember telling Greg, and little Linda knows this, I think he learned his lesson, and let him stay out there. Maybe he'll tell other people, you know. I remember having these little type of conversations.
Yeah.
But it was brewing in them. He just couldn't take it, Greg. He had to kill him. So now we spent weeks calling the car service. Finally, he shows up one day, and the plan went into effect, and Greg Jr., and me and Greg Jr. weren't supposed to be on it because it was personal, but we were.
Yeah.
We were not going to be involved, you know, and Greg Jr. Took care of that when it's public knowledge. He did his 33 years, so he's home now, thank God, or I wouldn't talk about it too much.
Well, you know, there's so many great stories about the life in this book, and I just wanted to touch on those stories.
And you show them the back too.
Take a look at the back of the book, and I want to talk to you more about your life now and what's going on in the world, man. I mean, we talked about it. It's a crazy world right
It is. For me, first of all, I say it a lot. I've been blessed. When I came home, I had a family that supported me. Was able to get back on my feet, open the gym. I met my wife. We opened the restaurant together. And knock wood,